Go.
Hi, I'm Ngaire Ackerley. I'm talking about a bit about responsive design. It's called moving fluid, so converting pixels to percentages. So I'm pretty sure we all know what responsive design is, but just to give you a bit of an overview, it's about making your website accessible on multiple devices without necessarily needing to scroll or zoom in. How do we do that? We have a responsive grid. So most of us will probably use some sort of grid system on our websites anyway. It might be like 4 grids on a desktop and a laptop. You might break it down to a 3-column grid on the iPad with a 4th column down the bottom. And on the phone we might even just go with 1 column. So just to give you some idea, on desktop and a laptop you might have the same dimensions, and when they're converted into percentages they're still going to be the same dimensions, but because they're percentages the ratio stays the same, but they just filter down to fit the screen better. And as I said, with the iPad you might go 3 columns, so it might go a bit wider, a bit more margin space, and the phone you might go to 100% wide, so it takes up the full width. So this is just a kind of example of if you have 4 columns with margins in the 20 columns. Let's say the columns are 225 pixels wide and the margins are 20 pixels wide, and then overall you've got a 960 pixel container. So if we try to convert pixels to percentages, the key math to remember is target divided by context equals the result that you want. So we're basically wanting to know what percentage is that column. So in terms of thinking about the context, we've got to think of what is the size of the container. In this case it's the 960 pixels, it's right around the edge. And that equates to 100% because that's our edge that we're working to. Columns, so our target, at the moment our columns are 225 pixels. So basically just to find out the percentage we go 225 pixels divided by the context, which is the container, so 960 pixels, and we get this decimal point, times it by 100 and we get 23.4375%. So that's the percentage width of our column. Margins is the same deal. At the moment our margins are 20 pixels, so we divide that 20 pixels by the container, which is 960, get a decimal, times it by 100 and we get the percentage. So this is the overall container. We've got to think a little bit more detailed when it comes to inner divs and that sort of thing, but that's for another time. So basically this is what you're getting. Overall you've got 100% as your container width, and within that you've got 4 columns of 23.4375% and your margins of 2.0833%, and that comes to 100. Basically that means that when you put that on multiple devices, that ratio is always going to be kept. You've got to bring in media queries if you decide to bring it down to 3 columns or 1 column, that sort of thing. On a whole, at least it's going to fit the device without scrolling and without zooming in. So, fluid images. Now, images in responsive design is quite a big thing. Most people do different things, but this is just a little technique to make sure that your images stay in proportion. So basically if you've got your div that your image sits inside, this might be the column, it might be a class, it might be a link, anything like that. So in this case we'll go with the column width, so that's 23.4375. Inside that you've got your image tag, you set your image tag to 100% wide and auto white. That way you get the image staying in proportion no matter what device you're on. you want more, read that.